Welcome back to LinkedIn News Live. We're at the Milken Institute Global Conference, spending the hour talking about finance, investing, and the global economy. I'm very excited now to be joined by Marc Rowan. He's CEO of Apollo Global Management, one of the largest global alternative asset managers with $500 billion under management. Marc, you recently completed your first year as CEO of Apollo. Tell us, what are you most proud of and what are you eager to tackle next?
Well, it's humbling. Let's start with that. But no, it was actually great. First year, really about just setting us up for success, setting us up with the people, the culture, and the plan. I mean, I think in terms of learning and thing I took out of it, I actually can't do anything. It's not literally true, but it's mostly true. But what I can do is I can change the way people think and also create the style in which we're going to run the business. And our business is a very entrepreneurial business. So articulate the plan, be very specific. It's actually on our website, and it's about 5 hours if you suffer from insomnia. Articulate the cultural and cultural expectations, and then free people to do business. Let's run the business entrepreneurially. I think that is kind of our positioning. Large enough to do anything, but yet small enough where we're a family, we're a partnership, we behave like entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I've heard you say something really interesting about being CEO, which is it's not particularly difficult work, it's just a lot of work. Is that correct?
It's absolutely the case. If I simplify our business down to what we do, yes, we need a strategy, but I often say culture trumps strategy all the time. Where does culture come from? And where does our business come from? Well, I think about what we offer our clients, and it's only judgment. It's the only thing we offer them. And therefore, to have judgment, I think you need to be with us for a long time, seeing what we do and what we don't do over a variety of market cycles, to see how we deal with conflicts, to see how we deal with ethical situations. So once you're there, I want you to spend your whole career. Therefore, I want to be the single best place to be a partner in the financial services industry. That's how we pay you. That's how you are excited about what we do. It's mission, it's purpose, it's style. And if you're happy as a partner, the principals are going to be happy and the associates are going to be happy. It's ironic. People always say start at the bottom. I actually think in our organization, start at the top and make sure the culture carriers are happy.
I would love to get into how the pandemic has affected this, which we'll do in a few minutes. I want to ask you, Marc, you spend a lot of time speaking with huge institutional investors around the world, stewards of the largest pools of capital, pension funds, endowments, sovereign wealth funds, huge pools of capital. As you speak with them and they're evaluating how to allocate their huge pools of capital, what challenges do they face today, do you think?
Well, look, the challenges at the moment may have been different than the challenges they have faced over the last decade. But if you think about what's happened in our country since 2008, basically the printing press has been running nonstop. We've had very easy financial conditions. We've had lots of liquidity. The Fed balance sheet has ballooned. And the likely outcome, stocks up, rates down. It's all been achieved. How much of that is beta, market movement? How much of that is alpha? Remains to be seen. So now we're entering a period of time where that seems to be running in reverse. The Fed is hugely concerned of inflation getting out of control. We saw announcements today where they're going to start liquidating their balance sheet. And so I think that sophisticated investors understand they're setting themselves up for a different type of market going forward. In terms of what we do, we are a provider of alternatives. Alternatives used to mean private equity. They now mean nothing other than an alternative to publicly traded stocks and bonds. And what's happened in markets over the past 14 years is public markets, particularly the debt market, has become all beta. So if these institutions want excess return per unit of risk, which is what an alternative does, they're going to need to step back from public markets. And for us, that's meant yield and fixed income replacement. We are by far the largest provider of fixed income replacement in the alternatives world.
Marc, there's a debate going on today, and it has been for years, about individual investors. Well, I'm talking about non-accredited investors, but let's just talk about even wealthy individuals having more access to these alternative capital providers and to private assets in general. Is that happening? Do you think it should be happening? And What are the drivers?
Look, this is another massive trend taking place in our business, the whole democratization of alternatives. And it's happening, and it's happening in size. And it's not just regulatory shift. It's not just market structure shift. It's also technology. Some things we don't often say. 15, 20 years ago, when we offered our first alternative product to retail, our retail product was not reflected on your brokerage statement.
Right.
Your broker needed to pull a separate piece of paper out of a drawer. Fast forward 20 years, everything's online. It's fully integrated. You feel closer to us because you see our tutorials, you can understand what we say, you can understand what we think. But we're in the first inning. And what I mean by that is this has been, last 2-3 years have been unbelievable in terms of the take-up of alternative investments by individuals. But mostly what they're buying are things that have already existed, but they're getting institutional fees for the first time.
Right.
I think the promise here is you're going to see products created specifically for this marketplace. And I would not be surprised if an individual's portfolio is 50% or more alternatives in the next 5 years. But again, the definition being an alternative to publicly traded stocks and bonds, not risk.
Right.
Because I believe alternatives exist from AA all the way down to equity. And most people can afford to step back from the public markets to some extent for a portion of their wealth.
Mark, one thing both individual investors and big institutions care about more and more is sustainable investment offerings. Very exciting announcement I saw from Apollo in February, a sustainable investing platform plan. You're planning to deploy $100 billion or more this decade in energy transition and decarbonization investments. Why?
That's the direction of travel. So I look back 3 years. The last 3 years, we've put out $20 billion to energy transition. And I do believe we're going to have an energy transition. What's going on geopolitically is making it even more clear that hydrocarbons are not over. There's going to need to be investment going forward, but we are inevitably in a transition. The amount of capital that is required to accomplish this transition in our country and worldwide dwarfs anything we've ever seen before. And most of that capital is yield, or it's hybrid, and some of it is equity. And so for us, capitalizing on the 20 billion we've already put out, building this platform, I think is simply where the business is going. And I fully expect this to be among the largest categories of asset class out there. The capital need here is enormous. Not to mention, it's the right thing to do.
Mark, final question. We talked about culture underpinning everything you do. How did the pandemic impact culture and the nature of work at Apollo?
Look, I'll look at it superficially first. We obviously learned we didn't all need to be together every day and that we could work from anywhere. And that has carried over in terms of what we do. We are now additional offices, Greenwich, Connecticut, Miami, West Palm Beach, and I will not be surprised if we have other offices. We are now fully back in the office, which for us is 4 and 1 for our investment professionals and 3 and 2 for the rest of our firm.
Okay.
But that's the positive of it, the flexibility, the learning we've had of it. The negative, and it's not a negative, we learned we are an apprenticeship business. There's an awful lot of power and magic that happens in our office. How does someone really understand the nuances of our business? It's in person. The learning. It is our promise. And so we will continue to be a hybrid culture. We want to outperform. We want to be entrepreneurs. We want to work as a team. We want to have fun. It's very hard to have fun over Zoom.
It's a good place to end it. Mark, thanks for joining us on LinkedIn News Live.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
That was Marc Rowan, the CEO of Apollo Global Management.